I want to address a comment that was left on one of my videos. Not to shame this person, not because they're wrong in any way, but because there's an amazing teaching opportunity here that I really want to take advantage of. And I think this comment reveals something very important about how many of us project power onto those we believe have something that we don't. On a video where I explain why I'm no longer trance channeling, at least for now, this person essentially said, "What a shame to walk away from such a gift." And honestly, they're not wrong. I do have a gift, but the gift isn't channeling. The gift is allowing. So that's what I want to talk about today, because I think most people misunderstand what channeling actually is. So in this video, I want to talk about what it is, how it works, what makes someone capable of doing it, and what years of channeling has taught me. Because I think that the way I see it and the conclusions I've come to is very different than most people. I don't think channeling is about communicating with another consciousness. I think channeling is about allowing energy, your energy, and the energy of all things. And I'm not just talking about the type of channeling that we think about in spirituality. I'm talking about all channeling. Channeling that shows up in creativity, in moments of inspiration, in healing, in intuition, in transformation. And once you start to understand what I'm talking about, you'll start to see it everywhere. And most importantly, you'll see it inside of you. Most people hear the word channeling and think about receiving information from another consciousness. Someone closes their eyes, a being comes through, and messages are received. And while I understand why people see it that way, that's not how I've come to understand the experience. To me, channeling is about allowing something that desires to be expressed to move through you. An idea, a perspective, a truth, an impulse, a frequency. In fact, I think most people have experienced channeling. You just haven't called it that. For example, have you ever been writing something and the words just feel like they're flowing through you? And not because you planned in advance or because you thought them through, but just because it just seems like they're just there. Or have you ever been dancing and just felt yourself getting lost in the music and it feels like you're being transported to another space and time? Or have you ever been painting something or playing an instrument or building something and it just feels like time stops and you're just letting your creativity flow and your impulse propel you? That's channeling. You're no longer trying to control the experience and you're just letting your intuition guide you. And something feels like it's being moved through you. What I've discovered is that channeling isn't about needing to know what you're doing. It's about allowing yourself to do it without needing to know. It's the ability of letting energy flow and letting the mind and body go. When we channel, we're allowing thought to be secondary and action to be the thing that leads. We move, we flow, we engage without needing to know the how, when, what, where, or why. Anything that you desire to do, that you feel like calling from deep inside of you, that's channeling. In those moments, you're channeling an essence of you that's desiring to be expressed. So channeling is the practice of being you. And this is where things become interesting, because most people think channeling is about receiving a message or an insight or an impulse. But in my experience, channeling is actually about allowing energy to move through you. And for that flow to happen, Something needs to be released so something new can flow through. Space needs to be made so something new can come in. So in order to allow, you have to be willing to release what's no longer needed. Sometimes when we channel a thought or idea or a message that offers fresh perspective, we have to be willing to question the perspective we're already holding. The thought we've identified with that may no longer be aligned or necessary. And this is where most people get stuck, because this requires honesty. Honesty about what you're holding on to, honesty about why you're holding on to it, and honesty about whether or not it's actually serving you. For example, most people say they want freedom, but freedom may require letting go of identities they've spent years building. Most people say they want truth, but truth may require letting go of beliefs they've become attached to. Most people say they want love, but allowing love may require letting go of grievances that they feel are justified. And so doing this is really difficult. What we're holding on to often serves a purpose, even when it creates pain. The stories we carry help us explain why we feel the way that we do and why our lives have unfolded the way that they have. And eventually they become completely intertwined with our sense of identity. And so letting them go can feel really uncomfortable. Because once we start asking ourselves the question, what if that story isn't true? We're forced to question our version of events. And if what we've felt feels justified, we don't want to question it. We want to validate it. We want to hold on to it. And as long as your pain feels justified, the story remains protected. And honesty has a way of disrupting all of that. Honesty asks us to question what we've accepted as true. It asks us to recognize that who we have been may not be who we desire to be. And if something is desiring to come through, a thought, a perspective, an impulse, something being channeled, honesty is what allows us to make space for it. Because channeling brings new energy through you. But that energy isn't coming from a being, something outside of you that has access to something you don't. It's coming from a deeper version of you that already knows. Essentially, you're letting go of who you have been in order to allow for a new you to emerge. So, channeling requires surrender, but not surrender to another being. Surrender to another frequency, to a new thought, to a new perspective, to a new way of seeing, to the possibility that something might be more true than what you've been holding on to an energy that says your idea of what's true might be limited. How about this one? And this is why I don't desire to channel beings in the way I used to. Because to channel a being means that I don't have access to that information and that I have to receive it from something outside of me. But to channel a frequency means I do. And all I have to do is allow myself to create space for it to come through. I become willing to hear something I wasn't hearing before, or feel something I wasn't feeling before, to let a new truth live inside of me. And because I'm willing to allow it, it can be expressed. And that is what channeling has taught me. Not how to talk to beings, but how to let go. How to let go of my anger, how to let go of my resentment, how to let go of identities built around suffering, how to let go of stories that told me I had to stay where I was. and instead open up to something new. Love, peace, freedom, possibility. Channeling was never about becoming less of myself. It was about allowing more of myself through. It was never about hearing another voice. It was about feeling more of my own. So, when somebody says that I'm walking away from a gift, I understand why they feel that way. But from my perspective, the gift was never channeling. The gift was the willingness to release what I'm not. And that is what makes someone a powerful channel. Not superiority, not spiritual status, not being chosen, but the willingness to be. To be with the parts of you that are still holding on to a more limited story of you and learning how to let those stories go. And the beautiful thing is that anybody can do this, but you have to be willing to face what you've been avoiding and feel what you've been projecting. Because the anger that you carry and the resentment that you feel and the feeling that life gave something to someone else that it withheld from you is yours to acknowledge, yours to feel, and ultimately yours to release. Otherwise, it will continue shaping your reality and telling you that the gift would have been better off with you instead. We often feel like something is missing, and that having access to a gift, like channeling, will give us the answers that we're looking for, or the love and validation that we're seeking. But what's needed isn't that gift. It's the gift of allowing a new perspective, and allowing a new version of ourselves. And that's the gift that people ultimately recognize. Not the ability, but the energy you carry. And that's why my channeling has been recognized. Not because I have a gift that you don't, but because I've been willing to release what I'm not. And the love that I feel, you feel it too. And you sense that within my presence, you'll figure out a way to receive it from within you. So, to the person who's disappointed that I'm no longer trance channeling, I understand. But I don't think what you're longing for is channeling. I think you're longing for what channeling allows. Love, connection, faith, trust. And when you discover that those things already exist within you, then you realize that you were never separate from the gift, because the gift was never about hearing another voice. The gift was about releasing the limited stories you've been holding on to and making room for new energy to move through. Energy that believes in you and never feels like someone else has access to something that you don't. So, just like everything that we talk about here, the answer is you. Learning how to be open, honest, vulnerable, and compassionate with you. And in time, what you've spent years searching for out there or believing was never accessible to you will become instantly recognizable within you instead.